my name is Adrian, and welcome to the Disc-ussions. I don't know what to say.
I sorry, I couldn't help a laugh.
I thought you were gonna say more at like the.
No. I kind of just. Well, that's kind of all he says, though, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just kind of like that.
He usually says that. Too, like he'd be like, "And welcome to 3 scary."
Yes.
Yeah. I hate that. I know that.
My name is Adrian. Welcome to the Disc-ussions. We talk about everything from movies to music. I'm your host as usual, Adrian, or Move Mantis, joined by my lovely co-hosts.
What's up, everybody? My name is Daniel, and also I'm also known as Rated DG13. You can find me anywhere with that name, or Rated GG13, depending on whether or not it was taken.
Damn it, I couldn't do it. No, I don't think I want to accept the guy thing. This is so fucking. It's stupid, because I realize like fucking Alex is gonna listen to it. I want to be like, top of the morning to you, laddies. We fucking yeah. No, I don't know.
You gotta like put on the thick eye. Top of the morning to you, ladies.
Top of the morning to you.
Gee, damn, fucking Danny, you sound like a fucking leprechaun. I don't know. If you guys want me to do it, I'll
Do it. Do the roar.
you know, you can accept the guy, right, Adrian?
I just did it.
Yeah, you can do it. I'll just be Markiplier's. That was easy.
No, it's too late.
Okay, are we restarting? How do
we have to restart again?
Definitely
I'm
have to
already
restart.
recording. Oh my god.
Okay, let's make this the last time.
You're just gonna edit? You're just
if it
gonna
doesn't work out, we'll do it normally.
No, I would have just kept that in because it was funny.
No.
Alright, and yeah, we're here to talk about Burning 2018. We're going to be talking about that later, but what I actually want to start with is a Dream Scenario. You guys look at the trailer for that new movie from A24 and Nicolas Cage, surprisingly enough. It looks very interesting. I don't know if you remember, I was going to bring this up earlier, that's why I waited to bring it up now. A couple of, I want to say it was like 10 or so years ago, this guy's picture was going around on the internet, and it was like, oh, have you dreamed of this guy? Have you seen this guy in your dreams? It's like this weird, creepy looking like drawing of this guy, and supposedly like a bunch of people were like dreaming about him, but like it ended up being like a hoax. Like it wasn't really happening. It was all like some advertisement for like a movie that never really manifested. But then now this is coming out. It's called Dream Scenario. Yeah, I think it definitely has something to do with that. Like I can't imagine those things being so similar and like it not having anything to do with like that advertisement. But I don't know if it's like like they resurrected it for this, or like they just finally made the movie like 10 years later, or what.
I can't imagine like who is like specifically responsible for the meme that was going around, but yeah, the character design is very intentional. So like I think it is more of a reference to it than like, it's like there's no way like that was like such a long time ago that I think it was more just someone like, you know, screwing around with people, and like it is such a generic guy anyway. Like I at no point would like when I saw that I was like, well, I mean, I don't actually recognize him, but like it's like not legitimately, but I could see why a ton of people would just think of a guy like him anyway. But in any case, I think that this looks it's worth taking advantage of in a movie. Having Nicolas Cage, you know, I always look forward to him, good or bad. I haven't seen anything by the director, but they have a bunch of stuff that looks interesting, which is such a bland, unuseful take, but
yeah, and I mean, I was more just thinking of like the actual kind of look and writing of the movie, or what it seems to be. Yeah, like kind of like you said, I'm not really familiar with this guy's work or whatever he's done, but it's A24 and Nicolas Cage, and you know that's what's gonna get people's, unless you have like something like a Scorsese or maybe like, you know, Christopher Nolan or that other guy that blows up stuff, Michael Bay. It took me a second to remember his name. You're not gonna get that like same recognition on like a poster or like a trailer than you would get from like something like someone like that.
Yeah, the movie's definitely being sold by Nicolas Cage.
Oh yeah, definitely, like 100%. But I mean, he looks, from what it looks like, he looks to be good in this role. Like, this is looks like something that'll definitely fit him. And
I love the potential that can be found in like him being in both dream and nightmare scenarios for like all these different people. And I recently rewatched Adaptation, and I saw a bit of that coming out of him, just like this really reserved kind of guy, and then like seeing that contrasted with how people think of him, and that, you know, in their dreams, and like how, you know, that changes their perception of him. Like I'm looking forward to this, especially since like it has that kind of everything everywhere all at once kind of look to it, where it's like it looks a lot more ambitious, and like it looks like a lot of sequences that are going to be played out are a lot more fantastical than just like, you know, because that's what you want for like a dream.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially because you're dealing with like dreams and the kind of crazy non-logic stuff that goes with it. Immediately, when I think of like good dream sequences, I immediately think of The Sopranos, and all the dream sequences in those are very, very well done, because they capture those, again, like kind of non-logicness of like how a dream works, how like all these things can be going on, whether it's like seeing people you see, or them doing something that's very odd, or just having there's just one detail they use a lot where there's just like a noise in the background of some kind. It's just kind of like a random noise. Like there's this one where it's like Tony, and he's like walking around different random places at different times, and like it could change just like that, but like the whole time there's this like creaking of like a board like throughout the entire scene, no matter where he is. And I feel like as long as they capture something like that, kind of like, again, this kind of crazy off the wallness of how dreams can be, but also have the characters not really realize it, you know, because in a dream you don't really think about it, it just kind of happens. And this is something totally completely off the wall, like you won't even really react to it at all. And as long as they can capture something like that, and it seems like that's what they're doing, a lot of the sequences they give you a little peek of, it looks very, very interesting. I'm very interested to go see it. Did it say when it was coming out? I might have missed that.
November 10th. Wow, that's super soon.
Oh damn, that is soon.
I'm like super Nick Cage pilled, like the last couple of... No, I've been that way for like a while now. Like, he's like, it's not every movie he does. Like, obviously he's doing movies to still pay off the IRS.
Yeah.
Or
that was real?
I don't
like
know
he
if
actually
he's
had
paid
to
them
do
yet.
that? Like he was actually like dodging his taxes or something?
Something like that, yeah. I don't know exactly his situation, but I just know that he owed a lot of money to the IRS.
I think this is just like internet brain rot. I don't know why I find like tax evasion so funny. Like it's just like kind of like a funny crime to do, just like to not pay the government.
It's just a crime you think you wouldn't do because you know you can't really get away with it, but then people still try to do it.
Especially like big celebrities. Like.
But no, he's good movies. Like he did. I don't know if you've seen Mandy. He did this other crazy movie called Color of Space, which is actually like a horror movie. It's like supposed to be like H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, I was about to say it's based off an H.P. Lovecraft book, I think.
He did like a samurai movie. It's called Prisoners of the Ghostland, which
was that also recent?
that one I didn't get around to watching, but I heard it was good. That came out 2021.
Oh damn, really?
But his better movie that came out in 2021 was Pig, and that was so far my favorite role of his.
I guess he's on a roll like a couple of years. I've heard of all these movies. I just haven't gone to like, see them or anything.
Just last year, the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Oh,
and,
that was the movie about himself.
Pedro Pascal. Yeah. And then
Didn't you go see? I was about to
year.
say, didn't you go see Renfield? Was that this year?
Yeah, this is this year. It was like early this year. That's why I thought it was gonna suck.
Yeah, you know who?
For some reason, all these movies come out like all the bad ones come out in like February.
You know what else? You'll never believe what came out earlier this year, and our friend Alex was talking to us about it. Shout out to my boy Alex. Knock at the Cabin. I did not realize that came out this year. I feel like I saw that movie so fucking long ago. Like,
the Shyamalan one?
Yeah, the M. Night Shyamalan one. I'm also surprised it didn't make all that much money, especially when we went through the top 10 of the year a couple episodes ago. Yeah, it wasn't even really on there. I don't know. I was kind of surprised. I feel like M. Night Shyamalan is one of those directors that you like I just said earlier, that can kind of sell a movie, and people will go see it. Especially with him and Batista. And Batista, he was like almost the main guy. Like,
I feel like people are off the high of Split, where it's like he's back, baby, and now it's just like
yeah, I guess
they're not even like funny bad anymore. They're just like they don't seem like they have too much
and
stuff going on.
Yeah, spoiler real quick for Knock at the Cabin. It's like there's no twist in that movie, but that's like the twist, I guess, that there wasn't one, or maybe he's just like trying to turn a new leaf, maybe. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna do twist anymore. People are gonna see that coming. Maybe it was like you said, like people are off the high of like Split, and especially after, because the one he made before this with Glass, right? Like
no, it was old.
Oh, it was? Oh, I didn't go see that one. I completely forgot about that one. I guess you're right.
I literally don't know anything about that movie other than like it's like that meme of like Joe Rogan, and he's just like, oh, I went to the beach that makes you old. And then like Jordan Peterson is like, no, it's not. It's actually not the beach that makes you old. It's the sand. But it's like they're not obviously saying that. Like I think it's like an AI voice. Yeah, but it's really funny.
Really?
It's stupid.
Because I was just about to ask, like,
yeah,
did he just get him for that movie? Did he just get Joe Rogan to be in his movie?
No, it's just a meme.
Oh, okay. I got so confused.
But they're just referencing old. I haven't seen that movie, but yeah.
All right, since we didn't talk about music at all in the past couple episodes, and I want to usher that in as soon as possible before someone recommends an album, I was wondering if you guys have Spotify. What are your top 5 songs right now?
I do have one
bring
good
up
song.
my top 10 music on Spotify.
I'll go first. I've been listening to St. Charles Square by Blur, Solo Reprise by Frank Ocean, DJ by David Bowie, Burning Down the House by Talking Heads, and Infinity Repeating by Daft Punk.
Oh, nice.
Just like quick thoughts on all 5 of those. St. Charles Square by Blur. I've been trying to get into a lot of David Albarn's other stuff because I've been on like such a Gorillaz high. Like I just love his voice so much, and I haven't really like delved into the stuff outside of Gorillaz from him. So I thought Blur would be a good place to start before I get into the solo stuff. And yeah, this new album that he has called The Ballad of Darren. Yeah, it was a really solid listen, and St. Charles Square really sold me on it. I really like this, like, especially with Halloween coming up, it has this cool, like, creepy lyricism going on where it's like, it read to me like a lot of, like, past regrets, like, always kind of lurking around your head, and, like, he likens it to, like, under his floorboards and, like, grabbing his heel unexpectedly. I thought that was, like, it paints a really, like, interesting picture. And yeah, just, like, super unique, especially for Blur. I haven't delved too much into their stuff, but, like, this is very unique, and I like how much it separates itself from Gorillaz. Like, everything he does outside of it, it's very much its own thing. And then moving on to Solo Reprise, I've been listening to Frank Ocean also, and yeah, just like also getting into a lot of Andre 3000's stuff outside of Outkast. I think he's been featured in a lot of stuff ever since like Outkast stopped. So I really love his input on like nearly every song that he's been in, and this one, it says like Frank Ocean on Spotify, but like he's in just like the entire song, and it's 1 minute and 19 seconds, and it's just like him, like, you know, going off, packing so much into that 1 minute. And yeah, it has a very powerful intro within the way he vocalizes to like usher in the song, and it feels so much like your thoughts like running out of control, just like thinking about everything around you like all at once. It feels exactly like you do when you just have a lot of stuff on your mind, and like it's just constantly like one thing to the next, and like you can't really keep track of it, but the way he keeps it so concise despite how fast he's going, yeah, it's so re-listenable to me, especially since it's like not one of the more popular songs on that album. I really like how it hasn't really been like played a lot outside of it. So just like kind of discovering it the last time I listened to the whole album was really fun. And then DJ by David Bowie, and also Talking Heads, Burning Down the House. Kind of, I'm listening to these for like the same reasons, because I've also they have Stop Making Sense replaying in theaters right now. And I'm thinking about going to it because, yeah, I've seen it once, and I think that would just be a really good experience to get an IMAX. So I've been going through the Talking Heads and DJ by David Bowie. It sounds very similar, and it's interesting because like it's kind of like the only one from that album that I would argue has like a very strong influence. It came out in the late 70s, so I would assume that he, you know, picked up on at least a little bit unconsciously from the Talking Heads, because like it seems like it just fits so well with like the vibe. Every time I'm listening to Talking Heads DJ, it's just like, yeah, you can very easily picture David Byrne, like the way he inflectuates his voice. It's very like yeah, just kind of like shout it out without like worrying about how you're tuned. It's hard for me to explain, but like if you listen to it and you're like familiar with the Talking Heads, you know what I'm talking about. And finally, Infinity Repeating, Daft Punk, Random Access Memories. 10th anniversary came out this year, and it's a.
It's crazy
really
to think that
pop.
came out like 10 years ago, and that was like their last album before they. I don't even really think they did anything after that. Like not even. At least I can't think of any like singles or anything. Like that was kind of like the last thing they did, and then 10 years later they just kind of broke up. But I mean, I feel like that's the appeal of like something like, or specifically Daft Punk. They never made anything where nothing ever felt like pushed out. Even when like some of their stuff wasn't like, you know, amazing, blow your socks off or anything, they're still good, and you can definitely tell they put a lot of effort into it. Nothing felt ever rushed or like they kind of just made some of this stuff off the spot or anything like that. It always felt like they were making music when they wanted to, not when they felt like they had to.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think it's been 10 years already. I remember when that, back in my day, you know, I remember when that came out. I remember when Get Lucky, you know, was all over the radio, and like people just were obsessed with that song. Granted, it's a good song, and the whole album's pretty good. I mean, I'm more of a Discovery man myself, but I can see why a lot of people, and I really like Ram. I think it is one of their best albums. If not probably their second best.
Yeah, it's always a close second between Discovery and Ram. Daft Punk and Gorillaz, those are like my top two bands. Even like they're not my favorite like single artists. They're definitely my top two favorite bands. And like Infinity Repeating, very nostalgic sounding, and that familiarity with the album that I've Random Access Memories that I listened to like hundreds of times over the like last 10 years. And listening to everything else too, the Horizon Overture is finally, and Horizon song itself, finally available on Spotify after being like exclusive to the Japan release. And yeah, just like getting used to that one again too. Everything was consistent with like what I was already used to, and like the Infinity Repeating, especially the music video, I think that was a really good send off to like their legacy, and like like that part where they go through all their like helmets and it's like kind of combined into one, and like being able to recognize where each helmet design like came from, at least in like the final part where it's like it really is just like showing how long they've come, and like it ending with like the glass robot breaking it's such a sad image, knowing that it's like it's basically over forever now.
Like, this is like this kind of the final. Like it's over, you know. Like that's it. And crazy to think it was 2 years ago, 2021, I think, when they kind of finally called it quits.
And that version of Touch is on the album too. The like final, it's just like kind of remixed to like condense it for that video. It's on the album too, and that's also a really good closer. So I kind of went into everything else that they released onto the 10th anniversary edition, but Infinity Repeating itself, just a really resonant and emotional send off that breaks me just a
Mhm.
little bit every time I listen to it.
Yeah.
Despite how much I've played it, it's like it's like just uh,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna miss them so much.
Oh yeah. Just knowing that, and I mean, even if like I said, they kind of didn't make anything after that. You're always kind of hoped that, oh well, they'll make something probably eventually, and then just to
Despite the silence, yeah, and then
yeah, just to come out and just be like, yeah, it's actually just over. I'm like, oh damn,
mhm.
now you'll never have that. Oh, maybe they'll come out with an album this year. You just kind of know now that like, nah, it's not gonna happen, like ever.
Mhm.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, just like I said about a bunch of movies being delayed because of the writer's
Yeah,
strike,
the registry.
and
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with like just again letting it cook is more important to me than pushing something out. And
Mm-hmm.
along those same lines, if you feel like you have nothing else to say, and I would prefer that you're just satisfied with all the work that you've done
Uh
so
huh.
far, as long as you've resolved it. You don't leave like things unresolved in a way
Mm-hmm.
that's like if you make a part one of something, like finish it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
but like in their case they went through every creative aspect that was appropriate for Daft Punk, and if there's always that lingering hope that maybe they just called it too soon, and there's something that they just weren't confident in. Andre 3000 was along the same lines, where like he
Mm-hmm.
said
Oh yeah.
he thinks that his voice as an artist just like doesn't fit into this generation, but there's a reason that people keep asking him onto their albums
Oh yeah.
to
Yeah.
feature him, because like he clearly has something to offer still.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't lost his touch, but like if if he doesn't have a solid enough concept for an entire album, then I completely understand why he wouldn't you know want to force himself to push it out, especially if you're just like doing it out of obligation. Like at that
Yeah,
point,
like you
that's
think you have to stay
yeah.
relevant or something like that. I mean, shoot, I say that, but like, what has Big Boy done after? What's he doing?
I know even less about him.
Right? I
But
mean,
for
he
that,
might. Hey, I don't know, man. He might be out here, pushing out, platinum albums. We just haven't heard about it, but you know, like you said, you gotta know when to hold them, know when to fold them, kind of thing. You gotta know what you can
yeah.
make and when you can't, and it's good that artists like that know. But I think there's no wrong generation for talent, and I feel like
Mm-hmm.
even if he doesn't feel like he's, like you said, like kind of not wanted but appealing to this generation, I feel like even if he still does make music and stuff, push out albums, that it could still like resonate with some people, no matter who they are. Because
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I don't think there's any era for talent. Talent can be relevant in any kind of generation. I think
Mm-hmm.
it just,
I mean, just
like you
like
said, just an
Random Access
idea.
Memory
Yeah.
is an ode to disco, and like that was the dead genre for such a long
Oh yeah.
time, and the fact that it took off as well as it did because they fully understand what made it work in the first place. And the one with Giovanni Giorgio, I hope I'm saying that right. That song just like
Mm-hmm.
breaking down the ever evolving music, and like just taking in every one of your like passions and like making it work, and like that being the future of music, uh in a way that's like you could argue that like like he could have communicated that in a song form instead of just like explaining it, but there is something so re-listenable to, because like that he knows what he's talking about. And like again, just like much like a solo reprise, I love how they just pack
Mm-hmm.
everything that you know they want to say into that song, and like how the music complements what they're saying so well. He's scoring his own uh, what do you call it, when a like revolutionist like explains their
A manifesto.
like manifesto, yeah.
There you go.
And like that moment where he says once you free your mind from the way that music should be, and like how it needs to be correct, you can do whatever you want. And like sometimes it doesn't work out, but it's always best to keep that in mind, that like
Mm.
there's no one right way to do it, and that's when
Mm-hmm.
art is best to me when it's like just you going for it and not caring about just what has worked, just like you know taking what you want to communicate and fully embracing it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's my
Uh,
top 5.
yeah, that's something good. And I just wanted to say real quick, and I think that's very reflective in their entire discography. You know how some albums, like their first one, like Homework, is really like club based, like club EDM type music. But then when you hop over to like Discovery or even Shoot Up to their last album, Ram, you see all the kind of different, and that's something I also like about Gorillaz that we mentioned earlier. This variety, like you said, not having a certain way they make music, and that they can make different sounding kinds of music. Um, Especially when you compare those two albums to Ram, you see a lot of differences. It's not just they're kind of classically EDM club kind of house music, which they kind of pioneered, especially at the time. You also get slow ballads like Something About Us, or in Ram, Instant Crush. But then you also have like funky club music like Get Lucky, or High Life off of Discovery. And I think that's very emblematic of their entire discography. And kind of went into what I said earlier, that they didn't really release anything unless they thought they had a good idea, like a good concept. That's something I'll always appreciate about them. Unless they get paid like $1 billion from Disney and make the Tron soundtrack.
Which I also love.
Well, then again, like I'd say, like that's also something I feel like you can easily see it as that, but then again, you could see that they had a vision. They had like this kind of like video game cyberpunky aesthetic like in mind when they were making the music for that movie. Like the only thing going
Yeah,
on
they were
there.
chosen because they were appropriate for that movie, and
Yeah.
I also like how it wasn't just one or the other, like orchestral or pure tech, EDM,
Mm-hmm.
and like how there are also really really good blends of orchestral and electric
Mm-hmm.
songs in that album. Like the floor filler is going to be Derezed, but like
Uh-huh.
I that's also one that I've returned to for like several times. It's a great like focusing album that like, and I I'm one of like the 12 people on the entire planet who cares about Tron Legacy. Like,
Yeah.
there's a reason that like that entire album, like I can perfectly see the scenes that go along with it. Like there is Daft Punk makes that movie. If it wasn't them, it would just not hold my heart the way it does.
Yeah.
Going completely the opposite route, from disco and stuff like that. I have Saint Behind the Glass, which is actually from Nacho Libre. It's like the ending
Yeah.
song, but I actually just unironically really like the song.
A good soundtrack.
I mean,
good
yeah,
soundtrack.
yeah,
I'll
it's a
admit
good
that about it.
soundtrack. Yeah, kind of like what we said earlier. It very goes very much with the movie, and that's what you want your soundtrack to do. They kind of be basically side by side with whatever movie you're making.
Yeah, I definitely agree because that it's like you can just hear it in the song. It's just like because that's the ending song, and it's just like, oh yeah, he got that he got like the happy ending. He beat the guy. As much as people like the I Am song, I actually like this one a little bit more. I also have St. James Infirmary, or also known as Gambler's Blues.
Yeah.
It's by Louis Armstrong. Yeah, and then I got Dog Nightmare by Jack Stauber. Been listening to that one a lot. I just really like that one. This is one of the bands I've listened to a long time. It's actually a ska band. It's Real Big Fish. But I found this one song that's kind of not so ska of them, and I kind of wish they didn't always do ska. I mean, I know they're a ska band, but it's called Drunk Again, and it's kind of sad actually for a ska band. He's basically just talking about how like being drunk while singing is like almost the only way he can function, without like this girl in his life. And then Um, the song I've probably been listening to the most, because I listened to it like 5 times this week. I found the song called "In Love" by Fear of Pop, and it actually features William Shatner. Funny enough.
Oh, what? Wow.
Um, William Shatner doesn't really sing in this. He kind of just talks over it, like over the beats.
Mhm.
But it's like not as cliche of a love song, like "Oh, I'm missing a girl" kind of thing. But it's like it's kind of talking about like the more complicated emotions in a relationship. Um, and we've talked about this guy a lot outside of this podcast, but it also has Ben Folds on it, which is
What? What?
he's the guy who Fear of Pop was made by this one other artist. I forget his actual name, but Fear of Pop is made by him and Ben Folds. And
Really?
Ben Folds is for people who don't know, he made the soundtrack or some of the soundtrack for Over the Hedge, which
Yeah.
like I know it's
yeah.
kind of like I get it's kind of silly, but like actually like if you listen to the songs he made for Over
I
the
mean,
Hedge,
yeah,
like,
I was about to say. I
he
mean,
goes,
despite what
he
you
puts
think
a
of
lot
that
of work
movie,
into it.
yeah, like
Like-
he really really tried for that movie. Like it's crazy that
Killed
how
it.
good some of the songs are actually. Like unironically, apart from the movie, like
Mhm.
kind of like what we were saying with almost kind of like Daft Punk. How man, I really like that soundtrack.
It
but
makes the
man,
movie.
yeah, but man, at least Tron Legacy is such a boring movie. Like I just all that's all I really remember about that is that it's like just kind of boring, and it's got a good concept and a good world and a good soundtrack. It's just the plot itself is not very well written or very interesting.
I'll
Yeah.
recommend
yeah,
that one thing because I gotta. I won't make forget to.
Ben Folds, like I could tell in his earlier work, like, a little like the same too much, like almost too much piano. But this is actually one of his super early works, and just like he definitely should collab more because like this collaboration like with William Shatner and Fear Pop like really worked, and it's just like really resonates I think with most people. It's like I think most people would enjoy this song, so I'm gonna put that at the top of my list for now. But I think that was all my top 5 actually.
Oh, okay. I will guess I will go
You-
too. I will say these 3 out of order just because 3 of my 5 are all from the same album. It's Turn to Stone, Steppin' Out, and It's Over. It's all by ELO, Electric Light Orchestra.
Hell yeah.
From their album that I've been listening to a lot recently, Out of the Blue, which is a really good one, and it's got a lot of good freaking songs. That's why 3 of my like top 5 of the last like couple weeks have been from this album, and I specifically like Turn to Stone a lot. You've probably heard me play it a couple of times. And I think just ELO in general, I always kind of describe them as they took kind of what Queen does, this kind of operatic kind of music, and just added like an orchestra, because there's a reason they're called Electric Light Orchestra, because like they use a whole freaking orchestra in their music. And something I also didn't know is that they kind of popped up in the mid to late, well, probably more late 70s, early 80s, but they had been making music since like 71, 72. So they made music for like 20 years. And this one specifically, I think it's from the like 82, 83. But I'm really liking Turn to Stone. It's like this song about losing a woman or losing somebody, and turning to stone, basically becoming completely useless and completely immobile once you like lose somebody that you really care about. One of the lines is, "I turn to stone when you are gone. I turn to stone when you're coming home. I can't go on." Yeah, I really like that, and I just like I've always liked their use of like their orchestra like into their music, and sometimes I think it can get a little samey, like some of their songs do sound similar, but I think they make up for it in songs like this one, Steppin' Out, where it's more of like a slow kind of ballad of coming out of your shell and going out to kind of explore the world and find yourself. Those are those three, and then I've also been listening to this kind of classic, also kind of 70s album, Steely Dan's "Can't Buy a Thrill." The one I have on my top 5 is "Dirty Work." I've just had that stuck in my head.
Really?
Yeah.
The Steely Dan?
Yeah, Steely Dan. Specifically, that album I've also been listening to a lot. There's also a lot of good music off that album. If I remember correctly, that's also the album with Kings on it.
Yeah, I remember really enjoying listening to that song after the Suicide Squad. It was in that one, right?
Was it?
It was in like the very beginning. It was definitely in one of the trailers, but I think it was in a prison scene when they were introducing like Bloodsport or something. It was,
what are we?
James Gunn has been good with
Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but I'll have to go back. I think I've referenced that like 2 or 3 times already. This man of like 3 episodes. It's just such a funny line. It's just like one of those, like, it's such like a Urkel, like, did I do that kind of line, you know? Like such like an obvious, like, no brain, low hanging fruit kind of line, and it's just.
I think the worst one, and that one's bad, but I think the one that's worse is when he's like, for those of us who don't speak good guy. Big fan of that one. I haven't seen that since the theater.
Oh yeah, dude. Man, that could be for another time, but I remember when I was excited. I was legitimately excited for that movie before it came out. Like, then again, I think this was like, when that movie came out, like 2017? It's like 16. 17-year-old, yeah. But I found the song. It's "Reeling in the Years." That's probably the most famous song off of this one. You know the "Reeling in the Years."
Yeah, another one.
The time. That's a good one. And the only other song I have on here is a song off of the Assassin's Creed 2 soundtrack called "Home in Florence." That's a really good track, and that's another album that I just listen to like very regularly. I love that game. It's one of the first games I like 100% in on like my Xbox when I was like 7-8 years old. I freaking love that game, and the soundtrack just helps. And kind of like what we were talking about earlier with movies, I think it's even more essential for video games. Not only the sound of the game, but like the soundtrack. Like in this one specifically, Assassin's Creed 2, it's set in like, you know, Renaissance, like Italy in like the 15th century. So a lot of it is like a lot of like operatic, kind of almost church sounding like music with like I said, like kind of operatic like vocals and this large like orchestra. I don't know, that's just been my role lately for whatever. I've been on a roll lately with just like orchestra music for some reason. Just been listening to a lot of that, and I think it works specifically in this game because it sets kind of the mood and like captures the time period. Because that is kind of music they play then, and it helps the setting while you're playing it, and it really makes you feel like you're in Renaissance, you know, Italy, and they really capture that. And yeah, I really like that Game Strike album. Yeah, I'm one of these people that does listen to video game OSTs, you know. But you know, I'm not one of those people that's like dumb enough to be like, well, I listen to real music like video game OSTs and EDM, you know. But again, there's nothing wrong with like listening to those things. It's just when you kind of are just kind of like pompous about it, you know. And I know people who listen to like, you know, video game OSTs and shit, they can kind of get that rap, you know, for that. But yeah, mine was pretty simple. That's all for me.
Do you guys think that it's time to get into the movie?
Yeah, I think it's a good time now to get into the movie.
So yeah, last episode I recommended a movie from 2018 called Burning, directed by Lee Chang-dong. It's about this guy who meets a girl, and she goes on vacation almost immediately after they meet, and they get on pretty quick, and she comes back with a guy played by Stephen Yun. His name is Ben, right?
Ben, yeah. Ben? This is bad. That's like again. This is just internet brain rot. Like when they did that. It's funny. I didn't do this because it was actually my second time watching this movie. I didn't do this for the first time, but for whatever reason, the second time when she's like, "Oh, Ben," and I just thought in my head, I was like, "Ben."
Like talking Ben.
Like talking Ben. Yeah, I almost expected, like a 4-foot, like fuzzy vanilla dog coming out.
You got the wrong copy.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ben comes back with this girl that is pretty mysterious, and a lot of the time you're wondering what their relationship is. And from then on, it becomes this slow burn story about all these happenings within these three people's relationship, and what everyone's motivation is, and what their intentions are whenever they're talking to each other.
And
That,
I think, yeah, like you said, Burning is a very accurate title for this movie, because especially watching it the first time, it could feel like it just goes on, and it's no pun intended, a slow burn kind of movie. Like, it really doesn't get into like the main conflicts until about the middle of the movie. And so spoilers, obviously, spoilers.
Yeah, we recommended it like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, just about.
Even though I definitely didn't just wait until yesterday to watch it. You can edit that out if you want to. But I just thought that was funny.
No, I'm keeping that in. No, everyone needs to know that you wait till the last minute. But yeah, the main conflict doesn't really start until the middle of the movie, because that's when she disappears. I have her name written down. It is Hi-Mi.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not only because they're Asian, or Korean. I am just horrible with names. Like, and especially if it's like a foreign name, like, it's over for me. Like, I won't remember that ever. Like, I can barely remember, American people's names, let alone, someone from a foreign country.
Why I said Ben first.
Yeah, this was a little easier because I just associated with talking Ben. But and she disappears about halfway through the movie, and that kind of starts off the whole, again, major conflict. But even that first half, especially when he first comes into the picture, like she meets her at where did she go? Africa? Was that where she went?
Yep.
Yeah, she goes to Africa.
When she brings her back, from there, they instantly set up that these two guys, him and the main character, Lee Chang-dong, yeah, they're completely different. Like, that's what I have. One thing written down in my notes, that like these guys could not be more opposite. Like, he is very cool and collected and very sociable. He's very well off. Like, he's got all his stuff together,
Mm-hmm.
And the main character, you just see this like the complete opposite. Lives on a farm that his dad owns. Dad's in prison. I also like how they don't explicitly say what he did. You just get that idea from the courtroom scene. Like, he assaulted and what the lawyer says after that scene. He sits him down and says he's gotta try to convince his dad to, like, basically say he's sorry, but that his dad is like so hard-headed and so prideful that he would never do that. And you kind of, like, you get so much. I don't even think he has a line in the movie, from what I'm thinking.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you get all that, and he didn't even really say anything in the movie. And that's the one thing I'll give this movie, especially on a second watch. I remember my first time watching this movie, I was a little confused or kind of slow to understand some things, but definitely watching it a second time helped and made everything feel a lot more obvious, because it's like right there. But then once you go through the movie and you know what happens, you can see it a lot more kind of plain as day, almost. Like, to me, especially when you first meet him, the Ben character doesn't seem all that threatening. He seems a little weird, I guess. Especially in those early scenes when he goes to his house and he looks through his stuff. On my first watch, I kind of saw that as, oh, maybe she's like, you know, keeping stuff at his house, you know, and I'm sure that's what the character kind of thought, like, oh, like they're more buddy buddy than like he thought, and you could instantly tell that like he's into her, like that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the main motivation for him, is that like even before he said, because that's another thing he doesn't say until about halfway through the movie, but you could just tell, you know, and to kind of see those things inside another man's house kind of makes you the assumption of that they're together in some way, that she's leaving stuff at his house. But on a second watch through, I saw it more as like that those are his trophies that he's taken from people, that like none of that stuff is hers, it's all stuff he's taken from other women that he's killed.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to get into that also because it is a mystery about how Jaime disappears, and yeah, the fact that Jong-soo is clearly like jealous about Ben and his like position of his life, of like, yeah, he has everything together, he's, you know, much more charming, but like not in a like showing off kind of way. He's very, yeah, just like very cool, and like he knows what he's talking about a lot of the time, and he certainly says stuff that is weird when he talks about his hobby of burning greenhouses, which probably just means something else anyway.
Yeah, and again, my
because
first
he
watch
does say that-
through, you know, that just kind of sounded weird, like a weird kind of conversation, and then
But he does say that when he's stoned.
Yeah.
And like you could, yeah, you read that in a way where it's like he's using that as a, not really like a legitimate like cover, like, you know, what he does outside of, you know, the crimes he probably commits, but like, you know, just symbolically how they don't explain what he does for his job, and they're just like, well, there's a lot of people in Korea that are just like rich and young because of their inheritance.
Yeah.
But as it goes on my first watch, it builds up the idea that he probably killed Jaime because, yeah, you know, like Jong-soo eventually finds the watch that was given to her in the very beginning.
And that's something else I'll compliment this movie on. There's a lot of good reincorporation, a lot of good callbacks, and a lot of things set up that get you later in the movie, like that, or like you know, the cat in his house that he has, or this idea of I love what she says, when she goes to Africa and she came back with this philosophy of the small hunger and the big hunger, you know, the small hunger are the people who are genuinely starving and hungry for food, and the big hunger are the people who were starved for kind of more of a purpose. And that kind of goes into what he says during that whole greenhouse speech, where he's like, oh, well, isn't it illegal? Isn't someone gonna catch you? And he says something to the effect of, oh, these things people don't care about. They're worn down. They're rugged. No one's gonna miss them if they're gone. And that kind of goes in with something like someone seeking a big hunger. Like you see, at least I saw it as he kind of looks for people, or maybe even specifically women, who are lost and are kind of looking for like themselves and looking for something more than themselves, and he kind of take advantages of that to lure them in, and honestly I'm pretty sure he like killed her.
Yeah, what I was getting at earlier was that even though the movie on my first watch I assumed that he killed her, there are several signs of it being something else, and on this watch I saw a lot of signs pointing to him being a human trafficker, and he doesn't explain where he gets all of his money. He looks for girls specifically who don't have anything and like don't know anyone anymore, or like, you know, they've like cut themselves off and like they feel lonely. Yeah, so clearly people who won't be missed. It's like that weird person you knew once who just like up and disappeared without a trace. And that would give him more of a gain outside of just like, you know, he's not just a psycho. He actually like benefits from this in a way. And yeah, the way he
she did meet him in Africa, so like if he's like going all over the world and stuff, that could be plausible.
Yeah,
during his
I'm just saying that, you know, I'm connecting the dots in my head, and that does seem very, very feasible. Although
he does say that like there's this simultaneous existence going on where he's like, he says he's in all these different parts of Korea. You know, they found him in Africa, and like that makes sense that he would just like jump around all the time. You know, just like live somewhere for a while, prey on whoever is a prime target for him, and then just like dip. And at first, I thought Jong-soo killing him at the end was alluding to this idea of like, you know, I love how nothing is 100% answered. It's very heavily implied, and it could very much be the case, or it could not, and you could still get a very impactful ending, because Jong-soo killing him at the end, after doing his own amateur investigating, it leaves you with like this sense of doubt that like, yeah, Jong-soo is this socially kind of not completely inept, but like very much I love how dopey his character is, and how like, yeah, he doesn't specialize in anything. You know, he doesn't have like a, you know, particularly consistent job. He's watching out over his dad's farm for the whole movie, but like he gets interviewed for that one job and he just like leaves because his mind is elsewhere, and he just can't get this situation off of his mind. He becomes obsessed with that, and so him killing Ben at the very end, on my first watch, it left me with this feeling of like he just wanted him out of the picture, because he, you know, he wanted any reason to just like, you know, stop him from existing, because of how like how quickly like Jaime likened to him instead of Jong-soo.
And again, you see the opposites of these two guys a lot, and you can probably interpret it as some type of jealousy as well, like kind of all this, not only that he took away her from him, but you know that he's just completely jealous of his whole lifestyle, like the way how easily he does everything. There are moments, and these are one of the best moments, where she's either talking to him or someone's trying to talk to him, and he thinks about saying something. You can kind of tell he just doesn't know what to say. He's just not that type of sociable person, and then he just kind of interjects and says something for him, basically. Kind of like a overriding kind of way of, you know, talking. And you see the jealousness on his face. Just any kind of those moments. Like you see the way he reacts, and how he kind of... And I also got the sense, the second time around watching it, that I feel like he also kind of wanted to be like him, in a way. You can see him kind of being like, not only out of jealousy, but out of like, oh, what can I do to kind of be more like this guy who seems to have it all together, has all the money, can talk to women, and be very sociable and stuff.
Along those same lines, the part where they go to Ben's apartment and they're cooking, she brings up metaphors, and like it's one of those situations, it's so real, where like they're not quite dating, these two people, but like either you like someone, or like it's the friend that you kind of met first, and now like this new person comes along and they're like talking more to them, and you're just like, you can't really find a natural place to get your foot in, where she brings up metaphors, and then Ben's like, I don't know, Jong-soo, you like to write, like could you explain it to her? And he's just like, gotta go to the bathroom.
You know what the bathroom is?
This like squandered, this like squandered moment, where like A, he did have to go and it was just like the worst time, or B, he found it condescending because they were like talking for such a long time, and he didn't want his like handheld to like be brought into the conversation in that way, and he snoops like right after he goes to the bathroom. So it's I always thought it was like kind of the situation where it's like he is also kind of eager to like look for skeletons in his closet. Yeah, just like the performances in this movie are so good. Like Stephen Yeun steals the show, but like the guy who plays Jong-soo,
that's not to understate that both of the other
very...
two actors, you know, they both did an amazing job, and I think especially the girl actor, or actress I should say, she really did a good job at playing this kind of, I don't want to say innocent, but like attached, like lonely kind of character. And honestly, I think you could tell that, and that's kind of emblematic of his character, Lee Chang-dong's character, that to me, she very kind of obviously liked him, and that she did stuff purposefully, especially with Ben, to kind of make him a little jealous, I feel like. At least I kind of got that vibe from her, that while she was friends with Ben, a couple of things she was doing with him were kind of to try to get to Lee Jung-soo, and kind of, again, just kind of make him jealous a little bit, to maybe make him try to make a move, because again, you just see that constantly of him trying to want to do something or say something to her, and kind of Ben just interjecting because he doesn't really know what to say or what to do, and he's just
Like,
a very
yeah,
awkward guy.
he could speak well enough to her the first time when it was just him, but like, yeah, he's very much shown up by Ben. And I also find it interesting how in the beginning the way she introduces herself to him. So there's the theme of pantomime, and that being the performance art of, yeah, pretending, just miming.
You're miming,
And
yeah.
and I found that interesting on this watch when she introduces herself to him, because he doesn't instigate anything. It's her. And she sees this guy, and she's like, "Hey, it's me, your old neighbor, and I look different because I got plastic surgery." And he goes along with her, and she tells the story about her getting stuck in the well, and like apparently Jong-soo saved her, and she every time she mentions it, it's like Jong-soo doesn't even remember that he did that. And that got me like curious, because he asks around, did they even have a well where they lived? And it's this interesting situation going on where people, they remember her as a neighbor, but they don't even remember her well, and it's just like, why is that something that she would have made up? At least in the neighborhood, like them insisting that there wasn't a well where they lived. Was she just looking for someone to like speak with initially, and like it could have been anyone? I was wondering if that had anything to do with it, because pantomime is this thing about convincing yourself. It's not about pretending it's there. It's about forgetting that it's not there, and just
Forgetting that it's not there.
yeah, really like leaning into that feeling of you really want, you're just so hungry and you really want this tangerine right now, and like when you pretend to eat it, or not pretend, I guess I should say, you can like legitimately taste it, according to her. In that kind of like authentic performance kind of way. She does this good job of like peeling it and then like breaking it apart, spitting out the seed. That's not just there for like no reason. That's I like how that's established in the beginning and always lurking in the back of your mind.
Yeah, and like I said, that's what this movie does good. A lot of good reincorporation, a lot of good setup for things that are either show up later or are woven into the themes of the movie. One thing that comes off the top of my head is that at the end when he does stab him, I don't know if you noticed, but those are that's one of the knives from the knife set at the beginning of the movie when he opens that that safe and you see all those knives, because it's actually really hard to get a gun over there, like really hard. They make it really hard on purpose. That's also something I like about this movie. Like I said, Burning is a really good, accurate title for this movie because of how slow it kind of is those first like hour, and like I said, doesn't even really get into the main meat until about halfway through the movie. But I think that's just a testament to how well this movie is written. That to me, I felt kind of the length, but I never got bored. I was always interested to kind of see where it was going, and especially when it starts to ramp up, you feel that way of writing, that they make tension between these characters, especially after Hae-mi disappears. You feel this tension between him and Ben. And it's very emblematic because a lot of the movie is really just talking or him following him around for like scene after scene. But they write it in a way to make it seem so like tense filled. Yeah, I think that's a real testament to the writing of this movie, that they can make something just like, again, just where they're just talking or him just like following him in his car. Very either tension filled or interesting.
Yeah, I like how the, even though the like actual conflict is introduced in the middle of the movie, there is, the entire first half is still, I don't think it's unnecessary at all, just because it's slow. All the information presented is like subtly reincorporated in one way or another, and it gets you to know all these characters enough to where the mystery can be perceived in different ways, and it's all like very naturalistic and like yeah, all these authentic feeling conversations. I love both of the scenes where they're hanging out with like all those other people that I suppose they're Ben's friends, right?
Yeah.
Where like yeah, she telling them about her time in Africa and like how they do this kind of this dance around a bonfire, and like she's very awkwardly like showing it off, and like she tells them to like clap along. They initially start, and it like dies out like pretty quickly, and she's just like left there. Jong-soo turns back to Ben, and he just like makes this face that I'm just like, it's so real. It's so real. I've seen that, like everyone's been in that situation at one point or another, where it's just like this. It's not like the most embarrassing thing in the world, but just like, you know, when you glance at the other person and they just kind of know like this isn't like going very well, and like he communicates that without like, you know, making this like wacky expression. It's just like it's this eye lift of like
yeah. And I think
so
that goes
real...
into Stephen Young, his acting in the movie, not only with that, but there's a lot of points where he kind of scoffs or kind of is amused by people's emotions, and he even says that like in one of the first outings that he's never cried. He doesn't know if he's actually felt real sadness because he's never cried before, and that's kind of his way of knowing that he's sad, that if he cries. And so there's that scene, and then there's the scene where there's, you know, smoking, and he admits that he's in love with Hae-mi, and he kind of just laughs, and like finds it amusing.
Yeah.
And again, like I remember watching that for the first time and thinking it was kind of weird, but with the ending of the movie and watching the whole movie a second time, like I really get that context of this guy is probably a sociopath. And I think the whole greenhouse thing was kind of a metaphor for how he picked out his women. And me personally, I'm more leaning toward a serial killer. Like he just straight up killed her. Because of two reasons. One, because of all the stuff in his house and how he found, you know, her watch in his bathroom. And if you look at a lot of the other stuff, it's a lot of just wrist stuff. And a couple of them have different people's names on them if you look at them hard enough. And that's very emblematic of serial killers. They like to take trophies or something that'll remind them of what they did, because, you know, they get pleasure from it. Not only that, I genuinely think when he follows them down all the way to that construction site, and, you know, he's just sitting over that lake and looking out on the lake, I believe that's where she's buried somewhere, either in the lake or
I
around
100%
it.
agree with that. No, yeah, it's just like how long he kind of just lingers at the lake. Like, you never really see him do that throughout the movie at all. Like, if anything, he seems bored of the entire movie, or like mildly entertained. But it's like the only time he ever seems to have any kind of sentiment is at the lake. And I was actually gonna say also when he's dying. When he's dying, it's like the only those the only two times to me that it seemed like he ever actually like cared. But I don't even think that he cared that he was dying, or I guess he cares that he's dying, but he didn't look like he was mad about it or like crying, which I'm glad he didn't cry, because, you know, he said he never did. But it almost seemed like he was like annoyed by it, or like I wanted to keep living and keep doing my thing the way I've been doing it, but I guess I'm dead now. Like,
yeah,
he just seemed kind of just irritated, or just caught off guard, like just like, oh, like damn, I wanted to keep killing, but
I love
can't
killing,
now.
yeah.
I do agree that he is a killer in some way. I can see it being both. Maybe he gets pleasure out of both things, like trafficking and, you know, killing, because he does have some kind of high-profile lifestyle that I'm not sure how he has. And I also felt like his friends, that when they're doing that dance scene you guys were talking about, or I guess when she's doing the dance scene, they seem just as amused as he is. Like, I'm pretty sure they're either in the same type of businesses, or they just all kind of have the same structured minds. Like, they think that like artistry and like art and emotions are like fickle and don't really like just like trivial things just to kind of laugh at, like, oh, weird dance, right? But like Like her explaining the meaning of the dance was like really sentimental, and it just seems like they brush it off.
Yeah, she gets very emotional when she discusses it the first time with Jong-soo and
Yeah.
Ben, right when they get back about how she saw the sun going down and how she looked at it and felt so lonely and like wished that she could just disappear like the sunset. And I love how that comes back in the middle of the movie after her dance. You know, that whole scene where Ben, Jong-soo, and Jaime are at the farm, the sun's going down that whole time. And just
Yeah.
thinking about the logistics of how they shot that outside and how they had to like get everything as the sun was going down. I can only imagine how long that took because there's editing going on throughout the scene. So it's not just like one take where it's like they just went off and like got the best that they could all to like keep it as concise as possible. They had to like make it work to where the entire uh, editing process was consistent with the sun going down. And yeah, there's a lot of great sequences where they capture sunlight at very specific times. The first sex scene with Jong-soo and Jaime,
Yeah.
how she talks about the sun bouncing off of
The
that
tower.
building into,
Yeah.
and how he watches that slowly disappear as they're having sex. That's also like, you know, you got to be there right in that moment as the sun's going down. Also,
And I mean, you
there's
can also say that's kind of his sunset, you know, like this beautiful thing that kind of makes him feel lonely because of those scenes, you know, where he's whacking off in a room, and the reflection off the tower reminds him of that moment, you know,
Yeah.
of them having sex, and you can kind of again interpret it as like that's kind of his sunset. That's kind of him kind of feeling lonely, remembering that feeling of being together with somebody, but then just kind of being alone. Which I think is exemplified when he goes back later in the movie, and you know he's touching himself, and he's thinking of her and thinking of her touching him, and kind of being connected with her. But then you know it pans out, and you know she's not there, obviously.
she describes it as like, oh yeah, when the light bounces off the building and comes into my apartment, it's really pretty, but you have to be here at a very specific
Good
time of
time.
day.
Yeah.
It could also be seen as, yeah, that memory of just like this one moment in your life. It's like kind of, you have to be in this very specific situation to be in it, and you only have that memory after that point, and like you have so much going on in your life that you don't get to revisit that kind of moment often. And how as they're having sex that moment disappears, and once it's done, like he never gets the chance to do that again, to like actually develop their relationship because he gets so caught up in Ben and Jaime's relationship. Another thing that really sold me, speaking of Ben, on him being a human trafficker as opposed to just a murderer, is the phone call that Jung-soo gets after she disappears, and he picks up and he wants to like meet her after he wanted to say sorry after like insulting her the last time that they talked. There's like rustling like noise going
Yeah.
around. And it seems like she wasn't dead yet. It was like she was calling for help. She didn't, you know, maybe got the first person in her contact list and like
Or
called
maybe
him.
I guess by the logic of the movie, maybe the only person.
Yeah.
Well, she
like,
also you can hear her like footsteps, like she's I think she's running.
So she's in a situation where she's trying to stay quiet as she's trying to contact help. So I couldn't really see in like a murder situation how that could be the case unless it's like a fumble on like Ben's part. I can't imagine why he would have her phone and like use it like that unless she's still alive and trying to get out of the situation. Yeah, just like talking about the phones. He gets these unreturned.
You know what? It's funny.
phone-
No, that's what I was about to bring up. I was actually going to ask what you guys kind of thought of that. What do you think it meant? You know, him just kind of getting these. I don't think it's really revealed or implied that it's Ben at all, because he starts getting him before he even meets him.
At the very least, like the subtext of that is like Jaime instigates their relationship, unprompted without him, and it does seemingly come out of nowhere, and after that point, it's kind of like he seems to me, she might like him, but like he definitely likes her a lot more than she likes him. I think she's kind of in her own world, and whether or not it's true that it was just one of those things that she was like, oh yeah, I got plastic surgery, literally anyone on the street, and like
Yeah.
it's very possible that like she never really met him before that point and was just like doing that
Mhm.
for like a
Oh
quick
yeah.
fix. uh yeah, these unreturned phone calls should could represent unrequited feelings towards someone. How it's like it's hinted at, and like you catch these signals, but like nothing comes of it.
Mhm.
And I'm also wondering if literally in the movie it's the mom constantly trying to call him and just like dipping out because she
Doesn't
doesn't
know what to say.
uh, yeah,
Yeah,
she doesn't know
yeah.
what to say, because that's one of the phone calls. We don't know if that was her every single time, but that's seemingly where it kind of comes to a head when it's
Mhm.
his mom.
Yeah, and I think they do a good job. I know we've talked about a lot of Ben and Jaime, but I think they illustrate Lee Jong's loneliness very well, and how he kind of has nothing to look forward to most of the time. And like the one thing he had kind of to look forward to, which was when his mom called him, and he gets to reconnect with his mom. His mom is just so uninterested, like
Yeah.
literally kind of doing this out of like almost seems like obligation, like, oh, it's been a long time now and you're an adult, so I guess I kind of have to contact you now. And like you can kind of feel how he wants it to be important when they're at the dinner scene when he's with his mother, but
Hmm.
again you just see her total disconnect, like being on her phone and just kind of talking about herself, and like I think she was in like gambling or something. She had some sort of like gambling app or something that she invented, that she
Yeah,
or
some
she
kind
was.
of game, or
Yeah,
like she's definitely texting throughout the entire like conversation too.
yeah, like just basically paying attention to anything else but him. And again, that's emblematic of kind of his whole life, and even in Jaime, how it's just kind of there, like you're together, but you're not really the focus, you know.
It's like applying truths, or like yeah, pantomime, convincing you
Mm-hmm.
yourself of these truths in these situations where they basically aren't very
Yeah.
important moments in your life, and just like trying to get something out of it because you
Mm-hmm.
don't really have much going on.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, this is a very slow burn film, and I like near the end where everything ramps up and finally crescendos with him doing this very heinous, fucking crazy act where he comes out and fucking stabs him like fucking like 10, 15 times, and then burns his car down and everything.
Mhm.
Like gets fucking naked. This like complete like crazy event at the end, and how they kind of build up to it with him meeting his mother, being completely dissatisfied with that, him kind of finding out. And I also liked that how they kind of leave it up to you to determine if Jaime was like a good person or not, because in the greenhouse scene when they're talking about that, he talks a lot about killing people or getting rid of people who aren't very well liked or don't have a lot of friends, and that
Mhm.
can kind of imply that she is not a very good person. And even her family says she makes shit up and stuff, but how much of that is family gossip or just people not liking you personally, and how much is that is genuine. And
Mhm.
they kind of leave that up for you to decide. That paired with um, his dad, him watching his dad getting sentenced to like, I think it was like 15 years, something like that, like a good amount of time in prison, and
Mhm.
then him having to sell the calf, because now with all those things gone, and with Jaime gone, he's like completely alone now, and that's when I think he feels he has to do this. He has to kill him, for probably a myriad of reasons, I would think, whether it's revenge or to finally get him out of his life, or to maybe even feel like he can actually do something with about his life.
Yeah, it's very. I did not get the sense that it was like justified action. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Ben is very, very mysterious and suspicious, and it's clear he's hiding something.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Especially when like Jaime disappears, he immediately has this other girl, and it's like it shows him literally like grooming her face. You know, he's grooming her.
So quite
He's, like,
literally,
prepping
yes,
her.
at that end.
And with Jong-soo killing Ben at the very end, yeah, it's not out of this sense of justice. It's like a hell of a lot of the time, guys are looking to start shit up just so that they can feel like they're important. And I also love the part where the final straw like is literally chalked up to just like them looking for the cat that Ben has after Jaime disappears, which is Jaime initially brings Jong-soo over to her apartment and she tells him to feed her cat, and like we never see the cat.
Yeah.
And its name is Boyle, which is like this like weird thing.
Yeah.
And when Ben has a cat and like it responds to the name Boyle and comes to him, it's like, is it he really didn't have any like solid evidence either. So even though I do have like this theory of like, you know, he's,
I guess you could say, I mean, her cat is gone from her apartment, and that's kind of the only thing that's gone. Like not her bags or anything that she owns, just her cat. Like, and it's not just the cat, but it's also the cat and all that stuff. You know, and I mean, you could even go into what you said earlier, the pantomiming, because in that scene before they have sex, they makes a joke that like, oh, you just come up here, you just lure me up here to take care of a fake cat that he never sees. But I think the cat was real. Like, he comes and cleans up its poop a couple of times, so he knows it's there. It just doesn't want to come out. But I guess you're right. Like, he has no kind of solid evidence that this is completely like her cat. Besides that,
even is it the same cat? You know?
Yeah. But I think for me, what kind of solidifies it is that all the stuff is gone. Like, why would she leave or go or throw all that out if she still had a cat?
She also was established to be broke, so like it's possible that like they're just like moving her stuff out after, you know, she hasn't paid for a long time.
Yeah.
And they can't find her, so what else are they gonna do?
But that's also what I like about this movie. That you could see it either way. You could see that like he's a serial killer, or that he's a human trafficker, or that he's just a normal person.
He's just a guy.
Yeah, and he just kind of obsesses over this girl, and then when she stops talking to him, or moves somewhere, or gets away, like instantly blames him, and you know, fucking kills him for it. And I think I'm more leaning toward that he actually killed her, or did something to her at least. But I like how they put those seeds in there that you could think of it as either way.
Yeah, my conclusion was that Ben is the closest to being a human trafficker, and in any case, Jong-soo killed him more so out of spite than you know, justice.
Oh yeah. I meant more when I said that earlier. I meant more as kind of his feelings and his own motivations, his way of thinking of it. You know. It kind of, you know, justifies it in his head.
Making your own truth.
Yeah, and again, I like that most of the movie, you know, is just talking and following each other around, or him following Ben around, and then it kind of jumps into this scene of just hyper violence, because, you know, shooting someone is one thing, but like stabbing them is a very intimate kind of action. Especially in the way of like, you know, killing somebody, like, because you're like right there and you have to, you know, stick it, you know, in them, so you got to be really close. And that paired with just him having to get like completely naked and burning the car down, I think really helps kind of solidify that scene within the movie, kind of like what we talked about the other day, or the other episode with Kay, and how he doesn't really feel feelings up until that scene where he gets really angry and he yells. I think keeping that for the end really helped the ending, and really helped the ending like kind of stick in your head.
Yeah, it's not just like shocking either. Like I like how there's a practical reason where he has to like get all of this evidence off of him like as quick as possible. He burns it all like immediately, and how it very much represents like rebirth. Like this whole situation has like changed him. Like what kind of a person is he gonna be after this?
I also got the sense, in a way, and maybe this is just me, that he was Ben was actually maybe grooming Lee Jung a little bit himself, like kind of to be just like him, whether that's like a killer or like a human trafficker. Because there's also that one scene when he's leaving the party, that he's like, you gotta find whatever it is that you want or you like in here, and it's like in his heart almost, which is I forgot the way he says it. I think is really very well articulated. But it's kind of
Yeah,
like
he says when he burns down a greenhouse, he feels this like bass in his chest.
in his chest. You feel it in your heart, and it's almost like you can interpret it as a little cheesy, like follow what's in your heart. But
What if you're a killer?
yeah, like, but he turns
it comes
it
across as more of a thrill than like a passion.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And I kind of got that sense a little bit, maybe, especially because there's also another scene I wanted to ask you guys about when they smoke weed and she takes off her shirt and she dances and then they're leaving. He says something really nasty to her. He says, "Why do you take your clothes off so easily in front of men? That's what sluts do." And I wonder if that came from just a place of anger, or maybe genuinely trying to kind of put her down, almost kind of like Ben does, almost, because he laughs at a lot of her emotions, like even in that first scene where they're like eating soup
Well, no,
and she cries.
I don't think he's as messed up as Ben is.
Mhm.
I think he genuinely wanted an answer because I mean he goes for like days just watching Ben just be fucking Mr. Steelio girl, like for like yeah. So yeah, he's kind of like jealous the whole time, and
Yeah.
then it seems like she doesn't even care about how he feels. Like she's just like, oh, Ben's so cool, and it's just like, okay, like you gonna
He
give me an
repeats
answer on
everything
like,
I say.
yeah, no, but it just seems like
Just
yeah, talking Ben. That's so stupid. Anyway, it seems like she's really like infatuated with him, and then at that point, like, he just says something out of anger to try to get something out of her, just to be like, you gonna like give me an explanation or something, like, kind of, yeah, that's kind of the way I got it. I don't think he was ever gonna be as malicious as Ben is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a
Um,
pretty gray area with their relationship. I don't think that because it's pretty unclear whether or not she sleeps with him or anything. I don't think she went, that far.
I'd say I would think
but
by
I-
the
I
ending
think-
scene with him putting the makeup on the girl, like they definitely had like some sort of sexual relationship after that, and that's
I
kind of what
think-
I'm thinking is that
I
when he
think-
finally convinces him to like sleep with them after a while, because that's what he waits for, like I forget what he said. He like rests for 2 months and then I'm assuming seduces somebody and either kills them or traffics them. But I feel like he would definitely probably have sex with these women, and if anything, after that final comment, that was kind of the last nail in the coffin for her and and Lee Jung's relationship. So she ends up getting with Ben, and then that's when he kills her, like the day after.
Yeah. Another thing about his out I say outburst, but he's just so like aloof. It could be like that he's just socially inept because he clearly like regrets it afterwards either. Like he really wants to talk to her again after that point. So that because they're stoned, that something like that would have just like slipped out of him like accidentally anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's not this like situation where it's like, oh, if only she could see how nice of a guy he is. It's just this like she just like felt like doing at that moment, and it didn't mean anything to her as much as it did to Jong-soo. Whereas like Jong-soo, he's not pure of heart either. He acts out of jealousy, like not in like over the top ways, but like certainly not in productive ways in order to like get any closer to her. It's always just like he's watching Ben and Jaime talk all the time, and you can tell like he's just like quietly like frustrated with this new guy, and making some kind of wedge. Like I doubt that it would have been that much different if like Ben didn't come back. I don't think that it would have like led to anything significant in terms of like them developing a relationship.
But I mean, I think that has more to do with Lee Jung than like, because I always got the sense that she at least had some kind of previous passing crush on him, because they said they were childhood friends, and that when when they were kids, he came up to her and told her that she was ugly, and how that kind of actually really affected her.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, if anything, there was a reason why she slept with them. I would think that like she did have some kind of crush on him. Either if it's not now, she did, and she still has some of those little feelings. And because I feel like, especially when she mentions the well and that you were the one who saved me and you don't even remember, that she seemed to be really upset by that, like genuinely.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because they were like, high. Like she seemed like, again, just upset that he didn't remember something that she probably felt was a treasured memory to her, because how much she says she feels lonely and just feels very by herself and she wants to disappear, and how when she was a kid, when she was in that well, she felt the same way, but he popped his face in, and that kind of gave her a bit of hope. And that can, I feel like, almost be representative of what happened at the beginning of the movie. Maybe she was feeling that way, and meeting up with him or seeing him was kind of like him looking down the well, popping his head out, him seeing him. I think there were some feelings there. Definitely, I do agree with you what you said earlier. Maybe his feelings were stronger for her, but I don't think she didn't like him at all. I think she did, even if it was just again like a crush from like a childhood crush. Because I don't know, I just see a lot of the time her trying to get him to talk, or trying to, like I said, trying to remember that memory, and her kind of getting upset when he doesn't, or when he doesn't really have anything to say. And I feel like that only kind of makes her go toward Ben more, if anything. And that's why I think that's why he finally killed her after that time when he... And he even says he purposely took her out there to... he says he went there to scout out.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it was all just to see what her and Lee Jung's relationship was kind of like, and if it was almost kind of like he was manipulating both of them almost in a way to kind of finally cut off that relationship so he could kill her, because he knew like if he did it while they were still on good terms that he would try to look for her, and that's what he doesn't
Or
want.
at the very least, that Jong-soo is this kind of guy who's like, like, okay, yeah, she's lonely in every, kind of regard, and like it's very easy for me to attract a person like that. And what is this guy gonna do about it?
Yeah.
Like, so she knows another guy, like, he couldn't have seen that ending coming.
Yeah.
Maybe it could go both ways, but what I felt Jong-soo was doing is, that very common, again, a very like male struggle, like women go through it too, of just like finding that person that gives your menial life meaning, and like obsessing over this one person who really doesn't like she's no like manic pixie dream girl. It's she's just a person. And like what you were saying about her in the well, and how like Jong-soo saved her in the beginning, how that could relate to how they met or re-met, how it's just like she was looking for someone to just like kind of fill that void, and just like hoping that if you apply this significance on just anyone without anything to like back it up, that it doesn't really like lead anywhere substantive in a relationship. It's just like you want it so bad that you make yourself believe that this relationship is right for you, or that it'll fulfill you in some sort of way, and neither of them get that out of the other person for different reasons. Another thing I liked about the very end, talking about him getting naked, I didn't follow up, but the second read of that wasn't just like rebirth, but also like he's stripped down. This is like what has always been
There.
hiding beneath the surface the entire time. And yeah, it's his true, like, this when left to his own devices, this is like his solution. And like this like very like animalistic, just like the lack of clothes is harkens much to just like what animals do whenever it's like
the barrenness
I lost
of them.
something. Yeah, I'm just gonna kill him.
Yeah. And I think it's really funny that because he kills him, and then while he's like stuffing him in the car, there's like a truck driving on the side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know. Maybe it's just dumb at me. I'm very surprised that like that guy didn't do anything. You just be like, oh, what's going on over there? Like this guy
He's
just getting
enough.
getting naked and like throwing his clothes. Maybe it's just like one of those things where you're just passing by and just like, yeah, I don't. Whatever that is, I don't want to be a part of it. And just keeps going. Because, like, I honestly thought that was going to play into the ending, like he was going to get in trouble or something. But no, the car just, at least my first time watching it, the truck just keeps going. But I guess if I saw, like, a guy, like, sitting in a car all bloody and, like, some guy next to him, like, naked, like, getting naked, covered in blood, like, I would not stop either. I just feel like, okay, didn't see that. Gonna continue doing my job, and that's funny too. Actually, where I actually, and again, this is why I think he's a serial killer, because from what their dialogue seems like he just drove up on him, like he's just like, oh shit, what's up, Lee Chang, what's going on, you know, like not expecting him to be there at all, and I kind of saw it as he was enjoying basically the afterglow of his kill. And then you know, because he's been following him this whole time, or for the most part, he, you know, just shows up and kills him right after, because he knew where he'd be and what he'd be doing. At least, guys, because he kind of looks like he's just doing the same thing, like what he did at the lake. He kind of just drove up to like a secluded spot and just stares out into a field, and that kind of, to me, made it seem more like, again, that he was visiting his victims' like graves, kind of like getting that pleasure out of kind of knowing where they are and nobody else. And not only that, like the scene of him kind of the shot, and they do a couple of these shots. There's two that come to mind. That one where he's on the lake, he's on top of the hill, in front of the sunset and being kind of illuminated, and Lee Chang is down the hill, lower than him, being kind of covered by the shadow of the car and like crouching down and like basically being in a total kind of different space than he was. Like he's high and bright and on like this major level, and he's kind of down here in the dark, you know, squatting and
I was gonna mention that. Sorry, go ahead and finish, but something with that scene.
Yeah. I
was just gonna say, I didn't compare it to this, but I saw quite a lot of people on the old Reddit. They were saying, like, a lot of people say specifically with that scene, it feels like it's almost it's like a side plot is like higher class versus lower class. Like, I kind of get that, but
and I mean, I definitely get that from the other scene where he's following him around and he's in the gym, you know, exercising, and you know he's in this giant like a 30-story high-rise building all the way at the top, working out and improving himself, and he's just like kind of skulking around, looking at him from like all the way at the bottom,
eating a burger.
Yeah, eating a burger.
I think also while it could be about class, I think it also is very much about social status, or like if Ben is just a weird guy who's innocent, you know, like in both scenarios he's up there either enjoying life, like the sunset at the lake, or improving himself.
Yeah.
And in both situations, Jong-soo is down there, he's indulging in, you know, just fast food, or like looking at him from down there, he's looking up at Ben and just like hoping that he finds some kind of, you know, skeleton in his closet. He's like he's just stalking him to, you know, believe that he has anything to do with Jaime's disappearance. And yeah, in both cases, yeah, just like I said before, whether or not he is responsible for Jaime's disappearance, which he totally is. It's very clear that Jong-soo is just frustrated with how he views Ben.
Yeah. Final take for me. I thought this was kind of an interesting perspective like, cause the movie's called Burning, and that's like very throughout the whole movie. But one other thing I got from it was like, it all seems that they have a burning desire. Like they all have something that they want, and it's all very fleeting. Like it's all very like the mom like kind of wants to have a relationship, and then like Jaime wants like, you know, freedom and to not feel so like trapped and suicidal, and you know Ben wants whatever mysterious things Ben wants. But the one thing I liked is when he's almost every time they meet, he's like, oh, I got you some food, and he even says like food is like an offering. And I was thinking like, I wonder if that has anything to do with the rest of the movie, like because it seems like throughout like when Jong or I forgot how to say his name already. I think it's Jong-soo. Yeah, Jong-soo. He sells the cow, and like Jaime does the burning dance. It almost seemed like those were their kind of almost offerings. Not even just necessarily to like a god, but just like that was their way of trying to get ahead, or to get where they wanted to be. And not only does life tend to like burn up everything that you kind of want, but then there's also people like Ben who enjoy doing it, like who enjoy starting the fires. And like a very bleak kind of outlook, but this movie definitely makes it seem like most of the world is against you, or is just not gonna really be helpful at all. And there's people like there's people in it, like people who have the skills to maybe help you out or help you situation, maybe have no interest in helping you, and just kind of like watching you squirm, or feel awkward, or feel like passionate. Because he doesn't say that crying is like, the only thing he says about crying is that it's interesting. He doesn't say he cares.
Yeah.
Like that's not something like a kind person says. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, I like watching people cry. It's interesting. Like, yeah, that's definitely like a big red flag. But
yeah.
Ultimately, like with the just kind of everything in the movie, like there's a lot of ambiguous stuff, but it doesn't feel all that important. Like I feel like it's the kind of more of the message of the movie is that life will kind of try to burn you down, and like you won't always get all the answers you're looking for. And even though he like, you know, kills Ben, I'm sure he'll always be wondering and like hoping like Jaime like shows up somewhere in his life, or like she's not actually dead. And like that's just the unfortunate circumstance of like things burning. And like she says with the whole like sunset thing, like she does the same thing, like she like literally vanishes.
Yeah, I like that you brought up Ben talking about cooking and how it's like it's an offering amongst him to himself, and like he likens himself to a god. Because like even if he didn't do it, like for as ambiguous as the movie is as to like whether or not
he's still like a weird guy, you know.
He's still like kind of a douchebag. You say that about yourself. It's like an offering for me. It's my birthday
I'm
present
so
for me.
cool. Yeah, you know.
And is that an Emperor's New Groove reference? Yeah, I just remembered that.
Me.
Yeah. But yeah, it definitely feels like they're all trying to get something, and it's like just a little bit out of their reach, and things just kind of burning into ashes, and just being left with only like little pieces, and just being like, yeah, that's kind of just how life is.
Yeah,
the slow burn of the mundanity of life, and how without you even like realizing it, it's like just eating away at your wants and desires. And I'm not gonna be like you know, super pessimistic, like, you know, like that's the only way it has to be, but like how he put out the greenhouse, he like lit it really quick, and like it took off on the vinyl, and he had to like take it down and like step on it like super quick in order to put it out. And you know, whether or not it was only a scene that was there to prove that Ben doesn't actually, you know, literally burn greenhouses, and he was just like saying that as a metaphor, or if it's, you know, from my perspective, it means like, yeah, anything can like just burn up really quickly, and you have to like put it out as quickly as possible. Like,
It's a good way to look at it. Like,
Yeah.
try to
yeah,
appreciate
first thought.
And
the
I
things
kind of
you
saw
have
it as
before
him
they
kind of
disappear.
yeah, him trying to kind of be like him, but you know that's not the best thing for everybody. You know, sometimes like one person's the way they live their life is not necessarily the way you should be living your life, and it's funny that I think he's kind of obsessed with Amy, but after she disappears, whether you know it's because he thinks he's like a killer or whatever, like, he kind of becomes obsessed with Ben, and you know that's kind of his only focus. Whereas, like you said earlier, like Ben's focusing on like basically anything else, and like never catches him or catches on to the fact that he's stalking him because he's just so focused on like other things.
Yeah, just like thinking about when he's describing burning down greenhouses, and Jong-soo's like, and you judge whether or not they're useless, and Ben's like, I don't judge anything, I just accept it. And how, yeah, that's a very sociopathic mindset to have. How like these rundown greenhouses, like I was saying earlier about Jong-soo putting out the fire, you know, it's just a a greenhouse that can be refurbished, and like just because it's not being used by anyone, it's still possible to get something out of it, because like it's still a shelter, it's still harboring life, and that is valuable. And if you, instead of like just finding greenhouses to burn, like actually like trying to make something thrive out of it, you can like reap things that you sow from it, and like benefit yourself and others in the process. I'm not sure if the movie is even that optimistic, but there is a truth that lies within it being greenhouses specifically being burned, and not just like I just find stuff to burn.
And I think that that reminds me a lot of No Country for Old Men, if you've seen that movie, of Antoine Chigurh, of what he says about killing, and he says this a little bit closer to the end of the movie when someone questions why he does these things, and he kind of just explains it as I don't do anything. There's this symbolism with this coin in the movie, and how he doesn't really decide anything for himself. He just kind of thinks he is guided by fate or just destiny. And when the woman who he's confronting asks him, or tells him that you don't have to do this, and he just says, yes I do, like and she asks him, like, why don't you just stop, like, you don't, why are you choosing to do this, basically. And he just tells her that I'm not choosing to do anything. I got here the same way the coin did that he has in his pocket, basically a destiny fate kind of thing. And to me, that I interpret it as kind of like killer dissociation. Basically it's a way to disassociate from what you're doing, to not feel responsible for it. Like, oh, it's not me, it's fate, it just happens. I don't determine the greenhouses, they just come to me, And man, this movie has a lot of good quotes, because there's that one, and then when he says later, when he explains that he was running around for days after they hung out, looking at every greenhouse to seeing which one he was gonna burn down, and him telling him that he didn't see any that were burnt down. He was just like, well, you just missed it. Kind of like I don't know if I should take this in a positive way. Kind of like you miss out on stuff in life by focusing on other things. Like, stuff is so fleeting, and that I think can be gone like that. And maybe that is the whole kind of thesis of the movie, that he didn't appreciate Jaime before she disappeared, and didn't try to make a move, or didn't really try at all by talking to her or getting into conversation, or even when she's crying in the restaurant, even like comforting her or anything.
It's like, that greenhouse.
Yeah,
that greenhouse is burning, and like he's obsessed with looking for all these greenhouses that Ben is burning, and he's not really like feeding it. He's not.
And like looking in her, or looking for the greenhouses, or looking for like some kind of love or connection within her, he kind of misses the important stuff, like making her feel comforted, or that he's too jealous of Ben to realize that he does kind of have a chance with her, and he could probably maybe get with her, but he's too busy being jealous that he misses out on it, and once it's gone, it's gone.
So you guys want to get into ratings?
Yeah, I'll get into my rating. I'll go first. I was thinking. I know I didn't say a whole lot of bad stuff about this movie, but I think the worst thing is the slow burn, if you may. The pace of the movie. I think it definitely helped the movie, but I could see why, especially on my first watch through, felt very, very slow. Just very, like, going at, like, a snail's pace. And like I said, they don't really do too much besides talking and following other people around. But I think with all that, the writing and the acting, I think I would probably give it a good 8 out of 10.
Yeah, for me, again, I completely understand why people wouldn't be into the pace of the movie. But it's just capturing the mundanity of everyday life, and there's something under the surface that keeps me intrigued. And I've seen plenty of slow burn movies that are either justified or unjustified in what they have to say in the writing, and I think that it's completely justified, and that it has. Yeah, we got a really good conversation out of this. I'm very glad that I was able to talk
Mm-hmm.
about it with someone too. Yeah, this was also my second watch. First time I gave it an 8, and this time I had to raise it to a 9. It's just like what I was saying about Blade Runner, such a resonant message for me, and captures exactly the type of struggles that I went through at a certain point in my life. And now that I put my pen in the ground, I'm glad that this movie pushed me to do that, and I'm very
Yeah.
proud of my actions,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm happy to do it again. So yeah, 9 out of 10.
And would do it again. Yeah, that guy's done.
Yeah, I didn't learn.
No.
I would probably give it probably an 8. Probably the same. It's really strong. There was just a few things I didn't like about it. Not so much the pacing. It almost just feels like the first and second half are just two different movies. And I guess
definitely
that's
get that.
cool. Visually, that's really interesting because I remember the first half of the movie is a lot more colorful. And I noticed they do like a sunrise kind of thing. Or it's like, at first it's setting and then it goes back to rising. Like by the end of the movie, you can kind of tell like it's almost like dawn.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like the movie could have functioned without a lot of the setup in the first half. Not saying the first half is bad, just like the movie definitely if it just started with like, oh, like, hey, I'm back from my trip, thanks for watching my cat, here's Steven Yeun, like I could still watch from that point. Like I guess the beginning really just there's a lot of setup, and it's like interesting and all, but I definitely could see how people would be more bored by the first quarter than the actual, like, the rest of the movie. I remember like when he starts actually following him around and like the music kind of picks up a little bit more. I was like, man, this turned into like a crime show.
Yeah,
like, I thought it was like
yeah. I can definitely see people thinking like that first half is kind of more like this kind of romantic struggle or love triangle between these two people and this girl, when just like one of the guys just has to be kind of weird, like a weird guy. But then, in the middle of the movie, after she disappears and he makes a speech about the greenhouses, kind of turns into this mystery.
No,
thriller
as soon as he said
almost.
that, I was just like,
what? Yeah.
It's like, but I like it a lot. I think the acting is really good. I guess they were trying to go for more of a realistic character. I just thought that Jong-soo was a little boring. He could have maybe given some more dialogue, or maybe just I would have liked to see what he thought more. But I guess that's a little bit more of a realistic character. Is like he doesn't even really know how to be responsive to it yet. She's more like shocked to the fact that she's gone than like Ben existing. But yeah, I guess I could argue that the pacing is slow. But I don't. I'm kind of more towards what Daniel said. Just like I was perfectly interested in it. Like I liked how dirty his house looked, and like just kind of lived in, and just the attention to detail and stuff like that. Especially, I really like the part where they look for the cat, because not only does that pretty much establish that he totally murdered her, Because he's like, oh, like when he asked him what's the name, like he had to like struggle like to think of an answer, like he doesn't answer him right away. He's like, oh, I haven't named it yet. And then when he does actually find the cat, the girl's like, oh my god, he found the cat, and like Steven Yeun's just like, how'd you do that? Like he's just like, I should have found it, like almost. And it seems like he, even after that, he like when his friends arrive, he completely turns his back on the cat and has like no interest or care about it. Like he's just like, oh whatever, like I guess he found the cat. Like, and just kind of moves on to his friends. It just shows like what the two people value. But yeah, I guess some more like, because they do a lot of talking about the past. They're like, oh, you know, remember when you saved me from this well? But it's kind of, I kind of maybe wanted to maybe see more of that. I feel like when characters like it almost seems like a sitcom almost, like not the movie, but like when characters just say, hey, you remember that one time you did this, like, but then they don't show it. It's just like it's kind of
is the well
just
real?
Yeah, I think they kind of went with the mystery of like like knowing if like that was an actual memory, or she just like kind of made that up to make him feel guilty for no reason.
Well, not even just the well, just like I guess I would have liked some more, like, it doesn't even have to be like to change the film grain and it's obviously a flashback and he has like a whole long like 10-minute flashback. But I guess I like to kind of see things from the character's perspective a little bit more, but that's just me. Like I would have liked to kind of see what she was picturing when she's explaining that story, or like maybe even see like a small bit of like her exchanges in Africa, because she kind of just says, oh yeah, I went there and there's a dance I learned, and that's kind of it. And it's just like I would have enjoyed more of that, but it's hard for me to like not or off focus, but it's just hard for me to like feel as, I guess, invested when it's all just a lot of dialogue. I'm just kind of a visual person, but like it's whatever. I still just think it's really good. But that's it for me.
That's pretty good. Yeah. Hunter, did you want to go next for the recommending portion?
I did.
Okay. You have something ready?
Unless you're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew what this was like 3 weeks ago.
Okay. All right. What do you recommend, sir?
So more happier movie that isn't about like everything you love burning up and ceasing to exist. I recommend this movie called Magnolia. You've probably heard me talk about this movie.
Yeah.
All right. I'm looking forward to this. I love Paul
that's
Thomas
PTA,
Anderson.
right? I was about to say that's PTA, right?
Yes, it is.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this was one of the movies I haven't seen from him yet, so this is great.
Yeah. I also
I'm not
haven't
gonna
seen
lie.
this movie from. I know this was him, and I know they have a lot of. Damn, especially from what I'm just looking at right now, they got a pretty star-studded cast. I've heard a lot about this movie. It sounds cool. I'm very interested in this.
Sorry, because I just realized we have been recommending some pretty long movies, because this movie is 3 hours and 8 minutes.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's very like what I like about this one a lot, without getting too much into what it's about. It's a lot of different people's stories kind of going on at the same time. So there's a lot to follow. Like it almost feels like it's like not quite an anthology, but like just like I feel like most of the plots are pretty interesting.
Right. Well,
Okay.
so if you don't want to be spoiled for Magnolia in the next episode, watch it and come right back.
Join
And,
the
you
discussion for it with us in 2 weeks.
Do you guys have anything else to say?
I don't know. I think that's it from me.
Oh wait, I have one thing to say. Donald Trump being in Burning made me laugh for
Oh yeah, no.
reason.
I said that the other day when we were talking about something else. It's really funny that now he's. I know what time period that was, or when this movie came out, just because they showed Trump on the TV and him as president. So I know what kind of like general year it probably was. It was I think it was 2018. But yeah, no, it's so funny to me now that he's like officially like in an historical like marker almost now. Like he's a part of history now, whether you like it or not. So Yeah, I also agree. That did also make me chuckle a little bit.
Yeah, there's
that's what I
definitely
got.
yeah, there's some subtext going on
Yeah,
like behind
yeah.
there that I just have no political knowledge of.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but just like yeah, it was I will say it was jarring to see him in like the South Korean movie.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I also think I should have should have been talk or laugh like this. He should just had him do that. That should have been that would have been cool.
What? I didn't hear anything.
Oh, what?
Did you play some?
Yeah, I played something. What the fuck?
I didn't hear any of that.
No, I didn't hear anything.
There's an empty space.
God damn it! You didn't hear
Yeah,
that? God damn it! Okay, I'm just gonna give up on
No,
that.
I
joke.
can't
Let's
hear
just-
it at all. I know. I can tell you're like building up to something. But like,
I'm just gonna give up on that joke. That was just another talking Ben joke.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I guess that's it for me. See ya.